Thank you. Let me just move this a minute, hang on. There we go, that's a bit better. Hey, loads of people turned up for this. This is awesome. So my name's Macdonald-Wallace. I'm a principal consultant for an organisation called Contino. We are a consultancy. Please don't groan, we're not that kind of consultancy. I'm here because we do a huge amount of work around Agile and SRE and all of the rest of it. And we have quite a few people that we talk to who are like, yeah, we do SRE. And we're like, okay, great, where's your observability stack? And they're like, well, we have logs. Right, okay, cool. So what we tend to do is we tend to sit down with our customers and we work out what it is they're going through, where their pain points are and how we can help them and all of that kind of thing. And then we come in and we train up all of their staff and we help their staff build the platform, and then we leave. And we leave them to run the platform that they have helped design, that they have helped to build, that they know how to run. So we've been going for a few years. There's 500 of us globally, more than that now. We've got offices in New York, we've got offices in Sydney. I'm based in the UK, and yeah, it's a fantastic company to work for. I actually came back to it precisely because we won't dump 400 consultants on site for 2 years to build you something that probably doesn't meet what you actually need by the time it's released, and then charge you more money to put more consultants on site to actually run it for you. I love this idea that we actually educate people, we educate our customers, and we bring them with us on the journey. We are hiring. If you're interested in jumping ship, if you're looking for new opportunities, if you'd love to get into the world of consultancy, please come and find me. I'm here. Well, I actually don't fly home till Friday, so I'll be holed up in a hotel until then. But yeah, find me at the conference, find me at the end. I've got my details are coming up on a later slide. So what am I going to talk about today? The talk is about automating the deployment of SLIs and SLOs. So from that, I'm assuming that based on all the talks that you've seen so far or previous experience, everyone's reasonably familiar with SLIs and SLOs. Okay, so I'm going to skip that. But the goal is that we end up automating as much as we can. So we're going to look at the tools that we're using to do this with some of our customers. We're going to look at the process that we go through, the result. We're going to look at some alternatives as well to the process that we're moving, because this is specifically targeted at folks that are running Loki, Prometheus, and Grafana. But there are other tools out there that will work with Datadog, that will work with New Relic, and all those kinds of tools. And then hopefully, if I've timed it right, there might be some time for questions at the end, but otherwise, as I say, I'm here till Friday, come and find me. So what do we want to achieve? The whole thing for me about SLOs and SLIs, and we've already had a few talks around this, is that it has to be manageable by the developers or the people that are going to be responsible for reacting to these. Okay? So we have to come up with a way that we can do straightforward generation of the queries that we're going to be running inside our observability platforms. We really want to be using some kind of common format, and we've seen some really good talks so far about that as well, the annotation of classes or that kind of thing. And it needs to be something that's accessible to everyone. We shouldn't need to get someone who's an observability wizard involved in writing these SLOs and SLIs. We should be able to get the business to write them. We should be able to get the developers to write them so that they sit alongside the code base. And we want to be able to automate the way in which we deploy it, because you don't want someone taking up all of their time, sat at a desk, clicking buttons in a web interface in order to generate this stuff, right? It's a nonsense. We automate everything else. We automate all of the testing. We automate deployment of our infrastructure through Terraform and all of this. So why shouldn't we automate the way in which we deploy our SLIs and SLOs as well? And it needs to be really simple. Okay, we shouldn't need to go off and build huge, complicated tool sets that were once, the kind of bobscript.sh, and then Bob leaves and it becomes davescript.sh, and actually it restarts on a cron job every 5 minutes because the server it's on is so old it can't cope. And we don't need any of that. We want this to fit into our existing continuous integration, continuous deployment patterns. And because we're a consultancy, we actually need this to work across multiple CI and CD tools, because we're going to be taking this into multiple customers, and some of them are running Circle and some of them are running Jenkins still, and others are running, I don't know, Octopus Deploy or whatever it is. So this needs to work across all of those. So that's our goal. So the tools that we're going to use to do this actually come down to three things. And you'll excuse me if I duck down for water. It turns out gin and tonics are mixed far stronger here in the US than they are back in the UK. It was good fun though. So the tools that I'm going to talk about this afternoon. There's one called Sloth. All of these are open source, by the way. It converts YAML from various formats. They've got their own format. They've got a Kubernetes format, which is kind of Helm chart style YAML, and then there's OpenSLO. I'll talk about OpenSLO in a minute. The OpenSLO support is not quite where we would like it to be, but again, I'll come on to that, but that is changing. Going to look at something called Cortex tool. How many people here are running Cortex as opposed to Prometheus? How many people knew there was a difference between Cortex and Prometheus? Okay, cool, right. So for those of you that don't, Cortex is basically a way to cluster Prometheus, if you like. It's not actually Prometheus itself, it's a standalone compatible, interface compatible project. And it's just a way of sort of scaling out Prometheus so that you're not running a staggering number of Prometheus clusters and trying to work out which one you should be connecting to see which data. There's a great thing called Cortex tool. It's a really easy way of manipulating and adding and controlling Cortex via the API. The folks at Grafana migrated away from Cortex to Mimir with the advent of Grafana 9. There is Mimir tool. We are starting to move over to that because a lot of what we do is in Grafana Cloud. For those of you that didn't see Corey's talk yesterday about build versus buy, where we kind of sit is in the middle. It depends. So it's really nice to see him sort of coming to that conclusion as well and talking about that. And what we tend to do is we tend to say, certainly with the observability stuff, right, running all your data storage stack and your data analysis stack and everything like that, make that someone else's problem. Because that's going to cost you a small fortune in wages, never mind anything else, to have the team to maintain the Cortex clusters or the Elk stacks or the App Dynamics clusters or the Splunk clusters, whatever they are, right? So make that someone else's problem. But the data collection and augmentation such as labeling and stuff like that, that is something that you can do in-house. So we tend to put tools like Vector or something like that in the middle to do the collection of the data, and then it pushes it off into the SaaS thing. Because we're interacting with Grafana Cloud, that therefore means we're effectively talking to Cortex or now Mimir, so we need to be using the tools that talk to that as opposed to something that's Prometheus specific. And like I say, we're using Grafana Cloud, but we'd probably be using something like Prometheus anyway, and there's a number of reasons for that. The first reason really is that from an open source point of view, this really is now the de facto metrics store. Right, I mean, you spin up anything that's Kubernetes related, your stack is going to probably come with Prometheus pre-launched. It's certainly if you get it from a vendor, you're running whatever the Red Hat managed Kubernetes thing is. OpenShift, isn't it? Yeah, because OpenStack's something else. So yeah, the chances are you're going to end up interacting with Prometheus. So for a lot of the stuff we do, it's Prometheus. But also we did an analysis about 8 or 9 months ago for one of our clients looking at 5 SaaS monitoring options based on cost, and that includes the cost of the wages to run it if you run it locally, based on the features that our client wanted and additional features that we thought they needed but they didn't realize that they needed because of where they were in their journey. I won't name the other competitors in this. Suffice to say they are all here with stands upstairs, but Grafana Cloud came out top. So therefore, for this particular client, That may change for other clients, but for this particular client we're doing this for, it's Prometheus. So those are the tools that we're going to be using. I just want to talk a bit about OpenSLO. This is an example of what it is. OpenSLO is an open source project. There's a few people here that are contributing to it. And the idea is that in YAML you can create all of the details of what your good queries are, your total queries are, your alert thresholds, your alert triggers, everything like that. And then there is a tool like Sloth, or the one that in the OpenSLO community that's rapidly gaining maturity is Oslo, and it will take your OpenSLO description, and then, and this is just about to be merged and released, I hope, it will start to convert it into whatever the format is needed for the API of the SaaS provider you're using. So the first one's going to be a company called Noble 9. I'll talk about them right at the end. But also for Prometheus, it will create the recording rules and the alerting rules. And we're hoping to get it for New Relic and Datadog and all the rest of it. So you'll be able to write all your stuff in one format. And if you decide you want to change your monitoring provider at some point in the future, you just change the flag you pass to Oslo, and it will generate all of those SLIs and SLOs again for you in the right format, and you can upload them to whatever it is you're using. OpenSLO.com is the website for that. Again, there's a few of us around, so if you want more information on that, come and find me. And then the final thing to mention before I move on to sort of how this all hangs together is the SLO DLC, which is the SLO developer lifecycle. So this is something that we announced at SLOconf back in May. Again, it's a fully open project. There's all kinds of people that have worked on it, Noble 9, Ford, ourselves at Contino. And what we've got, although it's not that easy to see from this image, unfortunately, because of the colours, is it's literally exactly the same way you'd do something like the Deming cycle or something like that when you're writing software. This is the same thing, but for SLOs. And it's got a handbook up there, and it's got a load of templates for you that you can go and fill out with, the people that have got vested interest in your platforms, all of that kind of stuff, to help you make sure that when you write the SLOs and the SLIs, they're actually going to be useful and they're going to be meaningful. So again, more than happy to chat about this afterwards, but it could be a really good resource for people if you're looking for that kind of thing. And if you look for the for the SLOconf website and the videos from earlier in the year, there's 3 or 4 videos around this that would help you understand exactly what we're going for. Okay, so that's the tooling and some sort of paraphernalia around the outsides dealt with. Let's have a look at the actual process itself. So this is a very badly drawn diagram of what it is that we do. Like other presenters, I'm used to sort of dancing around and waving my hands, so I'll sort of do this from this side. We use GitHub for source control. That's irrelevant here. It doesn't matter what source control you use. Doesn't matter which CI/CD tooling you use. That's the whole point, right? So in GitHub, we've got YAML. When you do a pull request, you do your standard reviews. That gets merged, and the CI kicks in. And that's the point at which Sloth takes over in our case, and it reads the Sloth spec that we're using, and from that it generates the recording rules and the alerting rules for Prometheus, and then Cortex tool uploads that into Grafana Cloud, and Prometheus Alert Manager takes over at that point and starts doing the comparisons between the recording rules and the alerting rules and triggering the alerts into Slack or whatever, and we can graph it in Grafana. The talk, how many of you attended Owen's talk before the break about Loki and stuff like that? Okay, cool. So he started talking about using Loki recording rules to create metrics inside Prometheus, right? Sloth works really well with Prometheus. It doesn't work very well with Loki. That's because when it was written, Loki wasn't really a thing. So what we're doing is we're doing exactly that. We're actually writing the recording rules into Prometheus based on Loki queries, and then we're using Sloth to analyze the recording rules from Loki to actually trigger the things. I can go through that again, but it's actually a lot easier to show someone than it is to do a live demo or to talk through it. So this is what Sloth code looks like. You'll notice that this is for a home Wi-Fi. This is actually one of the examples that comes with Sloth. Any of you that have got Unify kit on your networks anywhere, if you use the Prometheus exporter for Unify, then you can actually just download these examples and you can start getting things like burn rates against client satisfaction on your home Wi-Fi network, which is great because it means that when my kids come to me and go, "Dad, the internet's not working," I can go, "Well, no, actually it's fine, here's a graph that proves it." I'm not that popular when I do that. So, as you can see, it's fairly simple. You know, we're talking about the events, and you've got the error query and the total query. We've got what the objective is, a description, some labels, all of that kind of thing. And you know, again, here you've got two SLOs. You've got good client satisfaction and you've got risky client satisfaction. So, for those of you that don't know the Unify setup, it does all sorts of clever things and then tries to work out which of the clients aren't doing very well and can't see the network well. So this is basically giving us an idea of which clients are causing us the problems. So then we run sloth against this, and that's the entire YAML file, by the way, for the SLOs, okay, as far as sloth is concerned. It then generates a ton of recording rules and all of the rest of it for Prometheus, which is what you can see on your screen here. So I don't actually need to worry about writing these expressions where you've got the sum over time and the count of the polar and the ratios and everything like that, and doing it for 5 minutes and 10 minutes and 30 minutes and an hour and 3 hours. Sloth does all of that for me. All I need to do is just say, yeah, so the error query is the sum over time, the total query is that, and it will work out all of the incrementals that I need. And it will give it labels, and it will give it tags and everything like that. So when you go into the dashboards, you can pick it all up. And it's this output that we then run Cortex Tool against. And this is what you get from Cortex Tool. And so, I mean, it's not particularly interesting, but it just shows you that it's posting all the stuff up to the Cortex API. And this is going into, actually no, this screenshot is going into a Cortex that runs on my home network, because I'm quite sad like that. I have the entire Grafana stack running on a small box hanging off the end of my network, and it is clustered as well. Because, you know, why make these things easy? So anyway, so that's what you get as the output from Cortex Tool. It's reasonably readable. You can grep through it. You can see where things have failed. It will exit with sensible error codes as well. So if this fails to upload, your CI pipeline is going to stop. Same thing with Sloth. Sloth can validate the YAML before it creates it, so you can get it to stop the CI pipeline if the YAML doesn't validate. So we use that step in PRs. And you can get it to stop the CI pipeline if it can't deploy the SLOs. The way we have it set up is that it deploys the SLOs and the SLIs before it deploys the application. So if the monitoring in the observability isn't going to go out properly, the application doesn't go out. So what do we get? Well, again, I don't know, how does that show up on the screen? Okay, I think. For those of you that are familiar with Prometheus, you'll recognize the alert manager inside Grafana. And this is what the output is effectively of Cortex. It just generates all of these rules. And they just turn up. You don't need to do anything in the UI for that. And then as you can see there, you know, you've got all the expressions in there to work out what the various burn rates are and, you know, everything else. And like I say, all of this has come from the code generated by Sloth, and that's just been uploaded straight into Prometheus Alert Manager, or Cortex Alert Manager in this particular case. One of the other reasons to use Sloth is that it comes with 2 dashboards that are pre-configured to automatically pick this stuff up. So it gives you an overview dashboard. And this is literally just, this is how many SLOs you've got, you know, this is how many are at risk, this is what your burn rates look like, and things like that. And then it gives you a detailed dashboard. Now what you can't see very well on this detailed dashboard is that up at the top there's a series of drop-downs. It will automatically populate those drop-downs with a list of all of the SLOs that it knows about, and then when you select an SLO, you can select the SLI, and you can select the time window that you want to look like, and things like that. That all comes for free. You literally just import 2 dashboards into Grafana off grafana.org, and it knows, because you've got sloth in there, it knows what the format should be, and it just picks those up. So that's another reason we use it. You can see as well, it's showing you the objective, it's showing you what the current burn rate is, it's showing you where it's got no data. That's actually another burn rate that's over whatever the time window is that you've selected from the top. As you can see from the graphs, when I actually took this screenshot, the data hadn't actually made it in. All the SLOs and SLIs were in there, but the data wasn't going in there quite yet. So that's why some of these are blank. But you will see some of those graphs at the bottom. You will actually see over time how quickly you're burning down your error budgets and things like that as well. So it's a really useful tool to just be able to go to the dashboard, SLO, SLI, job done. And because all of these are in Prometheus Alert Manager, it also means that you can set up the triggers so that if the error budget looks like it's going to be breached, or you're burning too fast or whatever, it automatically sends a notification into Slack or to Teams or to PagerDuty or to ServiceNow or to Jira or whatever it is, wherever it is you do your incident management. If you're using Grafana Cloud, they also have, as of 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they now have their incident management stuff live. If you can get access to the beta to that, I'd highly recommend it. I've started playing around with it with the hope to use it with a different customer, and it is really good. It's rock solid. It'll allow you to spin up incidents, assign incident commanders, assign engineers, everything like that, either from within the Grafana UI or directly from Slack using a ChatOps bot style thing. So yeah. So that's kind of it as far as the sloth stuff is concerned. I do want to take a couple of seconds, firstly to have another drink, and then just to have a look at some of the alternatives. Okay. So we focused, as I say, you've seen we focused on the Grafana stack up until now, and as I said, there's reasons for that, but there are some other options out there. So one of them is Noble 9. How many people here have heard of Noble 9? Or are using it? Okay. So we kind of found Noble 9 through work we were doing with another client, and then we discovered that they were doing all the stuff around OpenSLO and the SLO DLC, and now we're looking at their product and how we can put it in. It does have an API. You can do all of this via the API. But the user interface is actually so intuitive and so easy to use that for a lot of teams, I suspect that once their data is starting to be collected, it's actually going to be quicker for them to click through and then do an export so that they can then save it and post it through the UI. It is really good if you don't want to have to manage all of this yourself. If you want to outsource as much of this as possible, then it's a great service for that. And whilst they will integrate with Grafana Cloud and on-site Prometheus and things like that, they'll also integrate with Datadog, AppDynamics, Splunk, Elastic, New Relic, and there's more coming out all the time. Okay. And as I say, it'll integrate with Prometheus, which is where this has come from. And it's a really simple integration as well. They have a container that you run, and you say to the container, that's my Prometheus server, and it goes, oh, okay, great. And then all the data is available to you inside Noble 9 to do all your queries. The other alternative is a company called dtech.ai. They're based out of Israel. They're still quite early in their progress, but they're doing some really cool stuff, and I think there's a lot of promise here, so they want to keep an eye on. They don't support as many people as many providers as Noble 9. They've got AWS, Google Cloud, Prometheus and New Relic, Elastic, Pingdom, Datadog, Instana and Azure are on their way. Again, it's very easy to set up. But one of the things I love about dtech is that when you go into the user interface to create your SLOs and your SLIs, it says, oh, I've been looking at your data, and I found a metric that's called HTTP response times. Is that something you'd like to make an SLI from? You say, well, yeah, actually that'd be great, thanks. And it says, okay, well, what do you want the thresholds to be? You know, what's your error rate? You know, what does bad look like? What does good look like? Whatever it is. But the fact that it actually prompts you for those initial errors means that if you're working with teams that are perhaps not as mature as they want to be, and they're just starting to get to grips with SLIs and SLOs, then DTEC could well be a good place to start because it's got this automatic recommendation. And that's it from me. If you want to get hold of me, if I've made glaring errors and you want to tell me publicly how wrong I am, I'm available as Prof Falcon on Twitter, Slack. I am still on IRC as well. For those of you that are, been in this game far too long, like I have, feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Drop me an email if you've got any questions. I'm happy to. I think I've got time for a few questions now, but otherwise I'll be wandering around all over the place. And despite the gin and tonics last night, I will be out again this evening. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we do have time for a few questions if there's any questions. And we got one right up here, and then just repeat it.
I was just curious if you can speak to possible approaches you might have done in regards to testable SLOs. And like when someone chooses to establish an SLO for a new service, how to make sure that they're not going to have the wrong threshold and like cause spur of alerts to happen.
Cool. Okay. So the question was effectively, how do you test that the SLOs that are going to get launched are the right ones? Yeah, is that
right? So some services might have already a lot of historical metric data that they can build informative SLOs on.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so the short answer is at the moment we don't really have a good answer to that. We tend to do it's more of a review of the SLOs and the SLIs during the pull request. So they'll be submitted and you'll read through the YAML and you go, actually, yeah, okay. And we might cut and paste the queries that are in the YAML into Grafana to make sure that the graphs look right. We may even go as far as creating the recording rules. So we run sloth to do the output and then actually manually put them into a dev Grafana or something like that where we're sending some data. But it's very much a manual process at the moment. We would love that to be more automated. It's something we're working on, but we're not there yet. Any more?
Any other questions?
Stunned silence. Fantastic.
Awesome, great, thank you so much.
Thank you, cheers.